We want to continue setting up our country's detail here. So what we want to actually do is, like we did at our home, we want to use this Axios to do the HTTP request. So grab the information from our local database. So just go to your home, copy this part here, and just at the script. So we're just going to import this and tell the system we're using Axios for this. That's the first part of this. We need to have set up our data in here, so if you don't have that, remember to do this as well. So data object in here, where we're going to, similar to before as our home, we're just going to, here we just grabbed all the information about all countries and then saved all the countries to this and presented them, right? But this case, it's not countries anymore, it's just a country. So we're going to save something in, I can't spell it, country, like this. And we're going to save an array because the country specifically entitled is actually more than one thing. It's the name, it's population, it's many different things. So whatever information we're now grabbing, we're just storing in countries, and then we're going to use this to present the data like before, very similar to before. Another thing we're doing, as we did with our products, if we just go through this quickly, once we actually got through the passing from our product to this one, we're passing in the parameters here, and we're doing this here, we're using the params route, right? So this route, params, and then ID for the first one, and so on. So we need to do a similar thing here. So other than having the country here, we need to grab that information as well, and we're using we're going to call this country code like this. Let's do a capital C so it's the same as the other one. And in here we're going to do this keyword, and like before, route, params, and then we're grabbing the code because that's what we're passing here, right? The code. So this is now set up to do this. Oh, sorry, two codes, not one. Two codes. This, make sure it's the same as this one. So if you call it something else, make sure it's this one you copy. Really important. So this is now set up. Now we're telling the system you need to grab this piece of information like A, B, W, or whatever it was, because we're going to filter everything from this part here, because it knows that if we filter something from here that is called ALB, Albania, then we can filter and only grab the information from this row here, right? That's what we want to do. So back to our code, and after our data set here, actually after our here, we want to use the created again like we did in the previous one. So have the created open here, and this is also going to be it's going to be very similar to the one we have in home. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to home, grab the created, starts here and ends here, grab this, copy this, go back, and just paste this in here. And just move everything in so it's a little bit prettier like this. We still need the Axios and get from this array here. We still need the promise here, and then this response, and then we're just going to switch it a little bit around, but the catch is going to be the same. But this part here we're going to fix up a little bit so we get the correct things. What we want to change is we want to filter out, or we want to filter so we only get the exact information about the country based on whatever is being passed in here, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to remove the then, sorry, I'm just going to do this real. So from then and after to this parentheses here, this is what I'm going to remove. So I'm just going to create space and then we'll clean it up later. But what we need to do in here is now similar to this. So we need the then, so the promise first, and say if this is correct, if this is working, we get the information, then we're going to do things. And I'm just going to call this the DB JSON, so the database JSON we get, and that's the name I'm going to store it in. And then we use our fat arrow notation, and we create our curly brackets here, and it ends again with a parentheses, so make sure everything is in order. And sorry, inside our promise now, we are going to grab with this keyword and then the country. Oh my god, I can't spell country. So whatever we're doing right now, we're like we did with home, we're going to grab our object up here and attach assign some data to this, right? And what we want to assign is the DB JSON we just got, so this one up here, the data we got from this one, and it's spelled correctly, yeah. And the data from this, the body from this JSON, that's called data, so we can't change that. And what we want to do with this data now is we want to filter it, like you would with if you get an array, like you did in some of your assignments, you would filter for age or something like this. If age is 20, then only show these, right? That's totally similar to what we're going to do now. So we want to use the filter here. And inside the filter, we're going to tell it what to filter for. So many names. And we want to return something first. And the thing we want to return is the country. I can spell country for nothing. We want to return the country, and so we need to do something before. Let's just delete this real quick. I forgot up here in the filter we need to pass in the information for country and use the fat arrow notation here as well. So the data is being stored here, the country, and now we want to return. Sorry, my bad, I forgot the function here. That's why it was a weird color. So now we want to return the country dot code with a capital C, and we want to set this equal to this country code that we get up here. So in this case, this could be passed in for, let's just go check here. And the home is now broken because there's an error here, that's fine. But in our case, if we're passing in like AFG, then we get Afghanistan, and that's what we're grabbing here and putting down here. So if they're the same, then print out the things for this country, right? And another thing we need to add besides this, because this is basically almost all we need, is we know we're getting an array. So we need to say, well, we only get one array, right? Because we're filtering based on whatever is in our host, in our filter here, in our case AFG. So this is an array. So the first array, the first number for array is 0. So we just want to grab that one. In our case, 0. So that means our first place in our array, when everything is equal to what it needs to be, then it should grab this information here. So let's just clean up the code, and let's do this up here. So it's just a little bit more pretty, like this, and like this. So let's see if this looks like I want it to. So Axios, no errors. Let's click save. Let's go to a browser, see if it's broken again, and home, and now it works. Phew! And if I hover Aruba and I click Aruba, whew, no errors. What to do? Wait, maybe one error. Data is not being returned. I think that's all right. Right, let's go. Data should be able to return an object. So maybe there's an error with our data. Open, close. Oh, we need one more. Whoops, my bad. I forgot one here. So I have open, close, open, close. Oh, good Lord, I forgot the return. So that's why. Return. Open, and then remove that one, and let's see, this opens it here, and now we need a comma here, and that should do it. So again, if you did like me, sorry, forgot the return object in my data set, so this should make everything work. Let's do this. Let's go back here, refresh, and there's the error gone. Woo! Right, so now we're just going to present the data, hopefully, and I'll just leave this a little bit, so if you have the same error, just make sure you have the right amount of opening, closing tags here, and this one down here if you need this one again. So, alright, back to the top. What I want to do is I just want to print out different details for the country, and I'm just going to set a class real quick here up here as well. And that's going to be like a margin all 3 or PA all 3, that doesn't really matter. I want to create an H2. And I'm going to do interpolation for country name. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this country. And then I want to grab the name, right? So not a capital C in the first, only the capital N. So that will be country's name. And before, I just want to print out the actual HTML for this. Country name, like so, save. And now you can see it says Aruba. Woo! So it's grabbing information here. Next thing I just want to print out is paragraph, and I want to print out the country region. And then interpolation here as well, and country dot region, I think it is. We can go check in our code down here. So country region, yes, with a capital R. And let's click save, go to a browser, and hopefully it says Caribbean. So now you can actually see we're actually starting to print out all the information. And I'm just going to show you another thing. So this right now is called Aruba, and it's the Caribbean or Caribbean, whatever it's called. And if I go to my database right now and I locate this, where did it go? should probably have there Aruba here. So I'm just going to edit this now straight into the database. It's not optimal, but anyways, so I'm just going to add an S to Aruba at the end. So Arubas, that's a new place. It's really popular. And I'm clicking go. I'm saving information in my database, and I'm just going to refresh. Hopefully we get an S here now. And there you go. So now you can see if you made changes to your database in here, you actually, once you refresh the page, you also see the updated version here. So again, you have to manually refresh the page or set JavaScript to do this. But basically now, if you had an admin panel to control information here, maybe a PHP backend for this or whatever you're doing, then you can see you can start sending information with Axios to actually interact with our Vue front end. And when you do changes to your backend, it's going to update those because we're using the JSON encoder here. So we're kind of creating a small version of a really simplified, almost REST API here. So all right, in the next couple of videos, I'm going to show you how instead of using our what's it called now, my MySQL server, how we can actually attach this to Firestore with Google instead, and that also gives us access to live reloading, so asynchronous calls, with which this really doesn't do because we need to do this all the time to have something new happen. So in the next couple of videos, we're going to switch out our database, our SQL database, with a JSON or a NoSQL database from Google, and you will see how easy it is if we build everything correctly to just switch them out actually. So we don't need to do a lot of things to actually do that. So see you in the next videos.